And he just kept jabbing his elbow into my ribs, going higher, higher, higher. I ended up paying more than anyone paid for DB6 before, and has done since, I think.
Hello and welcome to a Evo podcast special with our guest Julian Thomas, who is the boss and founder of a company called Racelogic, which many people will know produce the V-Box and a number of other logging devices, very popular in motorsport. So Julian, how did it all start? What was your intro to electronics?
Well, I started when I was about 8 years old. My father ran a electronics company that did the control systems on in big industrial production facilities like the Kellogg's cornflake factory and the Coca-Cola bottling plant. So he used to do the control systems that detected whether the Coca-Cola cans were upside down, and if so, it would then blow them off the production line. But and you do that with little sensors, photoelectric sensors that looked inside and looked at the depth of the Coke cans. But it was all really coming of age. It was just all the computers were beginning to be used in these kind of situations.
So prior to that, would there have been people there watching and trying to spot that kind of thing going past?
And they'd have to slow it down for that because people can't react as quick as a jet of compressed air, for example.
And they're talking about massive numbers of cans going past.
Yes, the noise is just incredible. I went to the factory in Milton Keynes and I was just overwhelmed by the noise. And I think I was about 12 years old, and I would walk up to these big machines and start programming them because there was not many people that were into computers at that time, and there certainly wasn't anybody in my father's company. But I loved them and really got into them.
So this was the progression of your dad's company meant that electronics were starting to control things.
Yes.
And he needed somebody that program them. And you were a bit of a nerd at school, weren't you?
I was, yes. I loved all that side of things.
Did you teach yourself then to a degree?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'd get computer magazines, read those. There were some very clever guys at school. We had, I think, 4 computers in the total.
So what would you have been working on then? What kind of computers? Because personal computers were very, very new, weren't they? Like ZX Spectrums and that kind of thing.
I had a ZX80. That's that was my own personal computer. But at school we'd have like a BBC Micro or a research machine, an RM, a research machine, big black box thing. And you would literally have to fight to get to use these computers because there were so few of them. There's only about 8 of us in the so-called computer club.
I was going to say it must have been quite a niche.
It was an eclectic group of people. That's to be true.
But it came just something you picked up.
Yes,
easily.
It just with me. I understood it. It was logical.
Because your dad had bought you a very simple Christmas present one year, hadn't he?
Yes,
a simple.
It was just a battery, a bulb, and a switch, and some wires. And he showed me how to wire it up, and I was just absolutely fascinated by it.
To have that control over this
just to the fact that you had something that was inanimate and it had energy in it, and I couldn't get my head around that. And the fact that you connected it up to a light bulb, which shone brightly and got hot, and you were in control of it. It was like it's like an amplification process. I think I'm going to say all men, but a lot of people like things that extend their capabilities. So full cars, loud stereos, it's along those lines, electricity that...
and trying to understand how that works is the next step, isn't it?
Yeah, and controlling those things. And it was fascinating. I blew a few lenses and shorted a few batteries experimenting. But it was just a fascination for me.
So was there that was you set on your path, presumably at that point? There was never any consideration about what else you might do?
I did that as a hobby at school. I studied physics, maths, chemistry, things like that. I've always been fascinated by psychology and psychiatry, about the way people react and how they react. And so I was sort of half tempted to get into that. But the lure of electronics and computers, because it was such an exploding.
I was going to say things must have been happening. So
yes, they were.
Quickly.
The technology was advancing so fast that to keep up with it was just fun and interesting, and there's all new things.
You were there at the very start.
Yes.
You get your 10,000 hours in very quickly.
Yes,
and you become an expert.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And your dad was also into his cars, wasn't he?
He was, yes, yeah, very much so. We used to go to hill climbs, used to go to Silverstone, Brands Hatch, watch the touring cars, Thunder Saloons, the Wendy Wool's special saloon cars.
Yeah.
I loved that. Yeah, some of those cars were outrageous. Yeah.
So where would that be? Late 70s, early 80s kind of period?
That's right, yes. Yeah.
And you get into lap timing, obviously, later on as well, with Racelogic's V-Box.
Yes.
But very early on, you managed to use one of your dad's sensors on your own scale electrics.
Yeah, he brought home a industrial control. It's called a PLC, programmable logic controller. And he had one of these sensors that was sensing the depth of a Coke can, which is about the width of the Scalextrics track. So I thought, I know, why don't I put that 90 degrees across the Scalextrics track and use the PLC to measure the lap time. So I then dropped my lap time, kept going quicker and quicker and quicker, and then got it to a certain point, and I was like, what's next? Well, I need to make it go faster. Well, how do I do that? And so I tried doing different things. None of it worked until I thought, I know, I'll make some qualifying tyres. So I got the Scalextric, the standard rubber tyres, and I coated them with Copydex. And I found that if you let that for about half an hour, they became sort of quite tacky, and they would last for about 2 laps. But I could knock half a second off my lap time by doing that. But then they'd destroy themselves, and then they'd be all over the place, and you'd crash. But it was just that chasing of lap time I just found addictive.
Yeah. And so you went from fighting at school for time on the computers to university?
Yes.
And that was, I found that very interesting because there was a computer department up in Durham.
Yes.
But again, there was competition for the time on it.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed yourself there. You'd been the nerd at school.
I had, yes.
But then you were in your peer group.
I was. Yeah, I was surrounded by a lot of other nerds as well. A lot of cleverer nerds as well. So that really pulls you up. Yeah. And you I was really good at computers at school, and everyone would ask Jules about the computers and what you do with them. Turn up at university, I'm like, oh no, I know nothing. Yeah. This is interesting. So
playing catch up.
Yeah.
But that was a good time for you, and you had an interesting summer job as well.
Yes, I worked for Superchips,
this fledgling company.
Yes.
I can remember when they came along.
Yeah,
because
it
wasn't called Superchips to start with, was
Detection Techniques, or
we called it
Detonation Techniques. So did everyone.
Which is what prompted the name change.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
But that was a formative business as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, very much so. The proprietor, the guy that started it, Peter Wales, absolute genius. Evil genius. He was a sociopath, I think.
Were you one of his minions then?
I was, yes. We got on well. There's a lot of mutual respect, but a lot of shouting because we're both quite strong in our opinions. But he did teach me an awful lot of electronics and computers. He could build a computer from scratch.
Did he have to do that in order to kind of interrogate the cars that you were working on? I guess there weren't any proprietary things to do that unless you were working in an OE manufacturer.
That's right. Yeah, you had to reverse engineer everything. Some of it was quite straightforward.
This is the start of the turbocharged car era, isn't it?
Yeah, so the ECUs would control the fueling and timing. And if you wanted to get more power from the car, you needed to turn the boost pressure up, for example. But they often had limits in there to protect the engine. So if you turn the boost pressure up beyond 10% more than normal, it would just cut the fuel, so you couldn't get any more power out of it. So the very first task was to find where that limit was and switch it off in the program. So you had to reverse engineer all the software.
So you're code cracking.
I was, yes, except I'm inherently lazy and want to find a quick way around things. So I invented something that would do it for me. So normally, before I was there, Pete Wales would sit there for 3 months, changing every single opcode that was a jump in this software to a not jump and see if it cut and then you have to fire it up and try it. And it just took a long time.
That's so laborious.
Yeah.
So I did that for the first week and got incredibly bored. So I made a little rig that did it for me, and it would iteratively change all these numbers, and it would run it on the bench as though the boost pressure was going up, and it would sit there, and it would be, relays would be clicking and things would be flashing on the screen. I'd be sat there, and Pete Wells walked into the room, and he said, "Why aren't you working?" I said, "I am working. It's working itself." "Oh, that's lazy." I went, "Oh, you wait." And it took, I think, 2 days. I got it down from 3 months to 2 days to crack these.
And that was a good thing, because the business was good.
Yeah.
Cosworths and Audi Quattros and things like that.
Drive all of the fantastic 80s machines.
Yeah. And the problem was that other tuning companies could just take all of your hard work.
Yes.
And copy it.
Yeah, that's right. I would build these really sophisticated rigs and sit there watching it and changing things. And some of them would take quite a long time because it wasn't a standard bit of electronics. You actually had to reverse engineer the electronics itself, how the memory was created and formed.
To understand where you needed to go to find what you needed.
Because some chips you could take out and just put into a reader and copy them, and others you had to sort of interrogate them. And I found it very demoralising. Say, when we first cracked the Escort Cosworth, I was the first one that managed to remove the boost limits on that. And literally a week later, everyone else had ordered one.
Yeah.
Yeah, our sales went up for the first sort of month and then just tailed off.
So you became poacher to start with, and then you became gamekeeper again, because you had to protect your work from other hackers.
Yeah, that's right. I said to my boss, I'd thought of this way of protecting it. So you could get a standard chip, put it into a reader, and it wouldn't actually read the data. It would be scrambled. And he said, "No, that's impossible," which is like a red rag to a bull to me. So that was a challenge. So I did it in my spare time at home with my own little soldering iron and a computer. Came into the office with this device, put it in my car, showed them that it started and ran, and then now copy that. You put it into the standard chip copying system, and it wouldn't copy it. And he goes, "Oh, I thought I told you not to do that, but now it works. Yeah, give it to me." And I went, "No, sorry, I've done this in my own time." So it was quite amicable. I parted and said, "Look, I want to start up my own company, and this will be one of my products." So for the first year or 2 years of business, I sold protection chips to super chips whilst I was building up my other side of my business, until he got someone in who managed to copy my copy protection.
It sounds like the nature of the business,
yes,
doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Which I guess plagiarism is part of most any industries with IP involved. Someone's going to copy it, aren't they? If it speeds things up.
Yeah, and you got a clever guy in who worked out what I'd done, did it in a slightly different way, and then they stopped buying them from me. But in the meantime, it was seed capital for me to run my own company.
One thing that I'm curious about, actually. So when you were first cracking the chip management systems, how much information were they, like, at what rate were they adjusting fueling, and compared to something now? Because I guess that was part of the problem with what you were adjusting, is there was enough time between the inputs you could make that the engine could damage itself because it wasn't doing everything in millisecond chunks.
They were running fast enough from each engine revolution. It would then recompute a new figure for the fueling, but they were very limited on what their inputs they could have. They boost pressure, engine temperature, air temperature, and throttle angle, and a few others. So there might be sort of 4 or 5
variables
Whereas nowadays, there's hundreds going into the ECU, and it's doing all kinds of clever things.
It was a little bit blunt at the very beginning. I remember doing a Super Chips Cosy at Millbrook.
Right.
And the engine survived. That one did survive. I did drive a low compression Cosworth back from Millbrook one time. But the
started off as a high compression.
Yeah. The engine survived, but the clutch didn't.
Right.
And basically doing standing starts, and it just didn't go anywhere. So not drive shaft. we eventually got the bung off the bell housing.
Right.
And all this hair fell out, which was the deconstructed clutch.
Shredded the first throws, yeah.
But we published that, and that was in Motor Magazine back in 87, 88,
right.
very start of things. And we thought, well, we've got to publish it.
Yeah.
There's a slot in the mag, it's a weekly mag. And we did, and we didn't get any bad, we didn't get a call from Peter lambasting us because his phone would not stop ringing.
That's right.
Best advert for the is obviously developing the power, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the
tire on the clutch. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I'll have one. Yeah, and more, please.
So yeah, that was the sort of the lead into all this tuning. But Racelogic wasn't the business that you envisaged for yourself, was it? The Racelogic means something.
No. Yes, I've always been to racing. Been to racetracks since I was 8 years old. And at Superchips, I was lucky enough to work with some different teams, and one of those was Andy Rouse, when he had the Kaliber Sierra, and he was developing the Toyota Carina to begin with, and I got involved helping him with different projects, and I would work with him on the dyno, where I'd be changing the energy management system, and then we go out on a test drive.
Oh, he's famously kind of analytical.
Oh, incredible!
Engineered stroke driver, isn't he? So I'm sure that what you could bring would have really appealed to him.
Yeah, he was teaching me how to tune an engine on a dyno, basically, because I would sit there and I'd have the ignition map and the fuel map in front of me, and he'd go, right, look at the turbo temperature. It's like at 980, that's too hot, any more than 1,000 it's going to melt. So we need to either increase the ignition timing, like advance it. It's like, what? Really? That brings the temperature down? Yeah, because it burns the fuel earlier. And if you retard it, it burns it later in the exhaust and it gets hotter. But that will then cause detonation. So then you've got to make sure it also runs rich, but then that loses power. It was just a crash course in how to tune a turbo engine. And it was absolutely fascinating.
Because he made brilliant cars, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And he could drive them and he could engineer them as well.
Yeah. And so Racelogic wasn't necessarily about the tuning of the engines. It was a holistic approach to the performance of the car.
Yes, that's right. I developed with him, we developed an active clutch, an active front differential for the front-wheel drive cars, because he correctly identified going from a rear-wheel drive turbo to a front-wheel drive, normally aspirated, that it's all about the drive out the corner because you're turning and you're trying to power. So we put wheel speed sensors on it, and I did a computer system that detected how much wheel slip there was. So as you turned into the corner, it would unlock the diff completely, and then the moment it detected any kind of slip, it would then progressively lock that differential up.
That's pretty forward-thinking back then.
That was his idea, It was he just described the problem, and I could then create the electronics to do that. But it was fascinating insight into racing cars and electronics.
So this is where you thought the business was going to be for you, traction control system.
That's right. Yeah,
touring cars, for rally cars.
Yes. Yeah, I developed a traction control system, and I developed it on my road car. I had a Peugeot 205 1.9 GTI that was absolutely fantastic, and I fitted wheel speed sensors to it, and developed this traction control system, and it worked really well. It was just an ignition cut system or a fuel cut system. And I began to sell it into racing, touring cars, rally cars, hill climb cars. But it got banned almost instantly, unfortunately. Along with the active differentials, they got banned.
Because it's too good.
Yeah, you're obviously doing something right then.
Yes, it was like, that active diff was worth a second a lap. And in touring cars, that was like unheard of.
Huge, isn't it?
Massive advantage. Yeah. So they just kiboshed it and said, no, not allowed. No wheel speed sensors on the car, and that kind of ruined it.
Where did your business go after that then?
Well, I then had to look around for other outlets for this technology, and that's where I then sort of got in touch with Aston Martin, Bentley, people like that, very low volume car manufacturers who couldn't afford to pay Bosch £10 million to develop a traction control system for them. But I had an off-the-shelf one.
And you could probably quite easily reach the person you needed to speak to rather than some huge management hierarchy.
Yeah. So I then began to supply traction control systems for Aston Martin and Bentley and Rolls-Royce and people like that.
And then you got into trying to measure the performance.
Yes.
Which is a pivotal bit, and that's where we probably come in as well, because working for various magazines, we tried various systems, trying to get decent data, including Datron's Cosworth, which
that was the standard at the time.
It was a fifth wheel to start with, which you always ran over while you were manoeuvring.
And then the hub-mounted stuff, and you tear the cable off, or the printer would run out of that little silver. Yeah. So they were all incredibly clunky systems, weren't they? Really,
Cosworth light beam, which is very clever, but wouldn't work in the rain.
No,
so all of these had compromises.
Yes,
and then
the reason I came across those was because the development of the traction control system. For four-wheel drive cars, you need a speed over ground reference because all four wheels can be slipping.
Yeah.
So I looked in the market to see what was there, and having seen the Cosworth system in magazines, I was like, right. So I contacted them and said, could I use this for measuring the speed across the ground? And there was lots of problems. We couldn't run it on a rally car because the rocks would smash the lens.
Yeah.
And I had just got into GPS because it was an interesting technology, and I thought, and I was speaking to a guy that used to import our stuff into Japan, and he said, "Can you not use GPS to give you like a reference?" And I went,
"That must have been a great light bulb moment."
I don't know, I'm not sure it's fast enough. So I did a bit of research, and literally, I think that month, someone had launched a GPS engine that updated 10 times a second instead of once a second.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, this could be it." So I bought one, and it was about £5,000 for this GPS engine, which back then was a lot.
Yeah, that would be a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Awful lot of money. And I remember I put it on. We had a Toyota, was it a Corolla or something? And I put it on this car and connected to a laptop, logged the data along a straight on our industrial estate, and I looked at it, and I could see my individual gear changes as I hit the clutch, the change in the speed. And I was like, oh, hold on, this is a bit special. This is really good. And then I took it to Ford testing ground at Lommel in Belgium. Yeah. And I said, I think I've got something here. Should we test it against your Cosworth? And so we did that. And they said, well, there's a bit of difference between the two. So how do we know which one's accurate? And I said, do you have a measured distance? And let's go and measure it across that distance. Never having done this before. I was thinking, I bet it's my system. Yeah, it's not accurate enough. Oh, well. And we turned up, we've gone onto this mile straight, and we did, it was a kilometre. And we did this measured kilometre, and the Cosworth, I think, came out at 993 metres. I thought, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mine came out as 1,000.00. And they went, wow, you're cheating.
Yeah.
What did you do with your fingers? Let's do it again. And I said, okay, look, this time I won't touch my computer. And we did it again, and it came out as 999.99 metres. And the test driver and I looked at each other and went, wow, this is the future. This is the way to do it.
Yeah.
That must have been so exciting for you, because immediately it's going to spark lots of ideas.
Yeah, I had no idea GPS was that accurate, and I don't think anybody did at that time.
And was that the birth of the V-Box?
Yes.
So that was the thing that we used. Lovely blue
anodized. That's right.
Little box.
Yeah,
copied from
Cosworth. Yes, they had a beautiful 2D, wasn't it? John Grist used to sell the 2D system, and that looked beautiful.
Yeah, so
I was like, that's red, so I'm going to make my
stole his business and his aesthetic.
Yes,
and then met him.
Yes.
Quite by chance.
Quite by chance. I had taken his customers, copied his aesthetic, used and abused him, and he wasn't really happy with me at all. And for my birthday, I got bought a cooking course down in Devon. And I turned up, and there were 6 of us on the course, and one of them was John Grist. No. So for 2 days, we had to spend time in each other's company, and
with sharp implements.
And the guy, we were cooking together by the end of it and having a good laugh about it. But yeah, that was slightly awkward.
Yeah, wasn't there a pivotal moment when the UK Galileo system came along?
Yes, well, in 2000, May 2000, I think it's May 2000, the Americans switched off the scrambling on GPS, because up to then, the actual position, rather than speed has always been very accurate, and from speed you can get distance. So that's how we measured this kilometre very accurately. But your actual positional quality was deliberately...
Is that because it's rooted in military technology originally?
Yes. So it was degraded to about 100 metres, so you could pop a bomb through the front door of the White House using their own technology. But then the Europeans said, right, we're going to make a system that's more accurate than that, which prompted the Americans to turn off this scrambling to try and stop the Europeans from producing Galileo, which it put us back like 10 years. Suddenly the impetus had gone, and that's why it took so long for Galileo to take off.
Yeah.
But it meant overnight, GPS went from like 100 metres and it was about 3 or 4 metres back then, which was suddenly you could use it for track mapping of a race car and lots and lots of, and one of my ideas was to map every single speed camera in the UK. I was driving to Swindon Race Engines one day to work on a variable trumpet on a red top for their touring car. And that Swindon Road had like 6 speed cameras.
Notorious.
Yeah, and I had a GPS system in the car for some other reason. And I was looking at the speed cameras, looking at the GPS system, and went, oh, I know. But then the actual amount of work to collate all of those speed camera locations and make a box and market it was just too much, very small company at the time.
Yeah.
But my salesman at the time was a guy called David Clark, who you probably remember.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I like this idea. If I find a backer, can I go and make it? And I went, yeah, as long as, I make a small commission on each one.
Yeah.
And he went away and started Road Angel, who grew into quite a large company. It did quite well.
That was such a thing, wasn't it? For a period of time before phones and Google Maps and everything provided the same information. Yeah. It was a kind of must-have.
It was
in your car. And,
it worked really well.
Listen to Tiff telling you where the speed cameras were.
Yeah, that's right.
So the business is going quite well at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd appeared on Tomorrow's World?
Yes. So it started with the local go-kart centre, James Hunt Racing Centre in Milton Keynes, as it was called at the time, because he started that. It's now Daytona Milton Keynes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought, I understood traction control and I understood GPS, and I thought, what if you put the two together? And on the go-karts, you could make them automatically slow down when they got to certain, if there was a yellow flag down the bottom, they could enable a speed limiter. Or the pit lane or things like that. And so we worked on that, but I also thought, well, this could be used on the road, couldn't it? Cars could know where there's a speed limit zone and they could slow down automatically. So I made a prototype. I had a Mazda RX-7, the old twin-turbo rotary thing that was my friend or the guy at work called it the chocolate shoe because it was no good for anything. And kept failing and, 8 miles to the gallon and very smelly. But it was absolutely fantastic. It was. I loved it. Yeah. But I fitted the traction control. It had traction control on it, of course. And I fitted GPS and I made it slow down into the local town, into Buckingham, automatically. And I contacted a few magazines that I know, a few people I know in that industry, and it just sort of took off and went viral back then. It appeared in the Sun, the Mirror. I was featured on Tomorrow's World, BBC News. I was interviewed on Radio 2. All of these things, all about this sort of automatic speed limiter.
And that got you in touch with somebody you'd worked with before?
Yes, that's right. A guy who had run a big computer company, and it started off a small computer company in Buckingham itself. A guy called Harry Twillier, and there were 6 of them at the time, and computers had just become a thing. And I was at school at the computer club, and they rang up the local school and said, "Have you got any keen students that could, after school, come down and help us with the computers and write some programs for us?" And they went, "Well, there's only one really that you'd want anywhere near your premises." And that's Julian, and he'd got a bike as well, so he could cycle down. So after school, I used to cycle down to this computer shop and sit there and take computers apart and program them and write software for and stock control and other boring things like that.
Yeah. But he saw you on Tomorrow's World.
So that was when I was 12. And then when I was running my company, he saw me on Tomorrow's World and sort of almost spat his cornflakes out. I went, I know him. That was that little geeky guy that used to come and help me. And I happened to be, he didn't know it, but I was renting an office space from him that he'd moved out of. He came to see me and said, look, I've just sold my company for X million pounds and I'm looking for something to do. Do you need some help? Do you need some help and advice? And by then, I'd grown the company. I think we'd been going 6 or 7 years, and I'd grown it to a certain size. But, I'm into technology. I'm not into processes and systems, accounting systems and cash flow forecasts and all of that stuff that didn't really interest all the grown-up stuff. Yeah. And I said, yes, please, I need help with this. So I paid him to be a consultant, and the company just sort of grew from then on because I was free to do proper technology stuff that I was good at, and the grown-ups would make sure it actually made money.
And the best bit is you got to do more development by going racing.
Yes.
So spending your time racing cars.
Yes. It was, that was down to James Hunt Racing Centre. And that's how I met Dave Clark, actually. I went down to the James Hunt Racing Centre and I set a lap time and I popped up to the top of the charts. I was like, yes, I'm a racing driver. But someone this guy, David Clark, walked up to me and said, which kart did you use? I went, that one there. He got in it and went to second lap. He goes, yeah, they're all a bit different. So, thank you for finding the fast kart today. And then his name would appear at the top. So I began to chat with him and I said, what are you doing? How are you going quicker? I want to know. Why am I a second a lap slower? What are you doing differently? He goes, I don't know.
Just a natural.
Where are you braking? Where I need to brake. How much throttle are you applying? Well, I just sort of feel.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's not good enough for me. So I made a little box to put on these go-karts and I took it along and I said, would you mind driving with this on it? And then I drove on it and then I wrote some software to overlay the two and look at it. And I was like, oh, I see what you're doing.
That's a key moment there, isn't it?
Yes, totally.
But you didn't realise it quite at the time.
I didn't. No, it was purely personal.
So when would this have, what year must have been?
This must have been something like 1998 or something like that, 99. I'm not sure. But from that, I then developed it and getting back in the kart and I could never actually, even with all that data, I couldn't actually get within those last few tenths of him, that's talent, unfortunately. Yeah, you can see what it is in black and white, but doesn't mean you can necessarily do it.
Yeah. But then that progressed to video V-Box.
Yes, I was trying to find those extra few tenths, and what the missing part of the puzzle was, where are you on the track?
Yes, he can see what they're input
and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So he had phenomenal car control, and by then he was my salesman, and he was doing all our test driving of the traction control systems. He just had a natural ability to slide a car at any angle whilst waving to a camera or something.
Some people make a living out of that.
So one day I filmed him because I tried to do it, and I'd spin and I'd spin and I'd spin. So I was like, I need to film him. So I sat there and I filmed him whilst we were sliding around Finmere Market during the week. It was a big sort of open old airfield.
Yeah.
And watching what he was doing was the sort of light bulb. You need to see what someone's doing to understand how to do it. And it was really simple what he was doing with the wheel, but unless you can see it and study it, you don't actually.
Was there anyone else doing similar work anywhere in the world?
Not obviously, no. And again, it started off as just a device just for me.
Yeah.
Then I'd do some track days, go karting, and I'd have this camera system with the data involved, and I progressed really quickly, and I thought, this is a product. So then developed it into what's called V-Box.
It's a product.
It is a product. Yes.
Most of the stuff you see on YouTube in race cars is your.
You can't imagine anyone going racing now, or even track days, driving their car seriously and wanting to improve either themselves or their car. You can't imagine anyone not using that equipment now.
There's other systems out there, and they're very good. But what I've done, because I'm the driver who's using my equipment every day, and using it to actually improve myself, I worked out what the nuggets of information are and what the important things are and what isn't important. You go to an engineer and you say, I want to put a data log on a car, and they go, right, I'll log everything and I'll throw it up on this big screen with loads of squiggles, numbers.
There's all those sort of famous archive photos, aren't there, of Ford with a GT40 or whatever it might have been, and there's a box like this big, it's a passenger seat that's logging information, but it's not. That's just for them to understand the car, isn't it? It's not.
Yes, that's right.
The thing you were doing, which was understanding how to drive it.
So I just concentrated the V-Box on what the driver needed to know, and I removed all of the difficult bits. So you don't have to worry about directories and files and names and things like that. It just does it all for you. And you come in from your session and you push a button and there's your fastest lap. And then you can compare other laps to it without having to think about too much. And it's about cutting down the noise so the driver can understand what he needs to do to go quickly.
And it was Nigel Greensall, who was your partner in certain driving scenarios later on, who said, "This is people would want this."
Yes.
And that was the sort of, right, we've got a product.
Yeah. I met him at the motorsport show in Cologne, and he came by and I said, I've got this device and it does GPS and video, but I didn't have any software with it at the time. It was a bit difficult to use. And he looked at it and said, right, if you want to make it really simple and to do this and do that, and you want to like a lap time display that gives you this delta. And I was like, what's delta? And he said, well, this is the different, you can have your fastest lap. So I worked with him and I ended up going racing with him and he was teaching me. But we developed this, the lap timer display that gives you an instant feedback as whether you're going quicker or slower.
Kiss of death, isn't it? You see you're up on your lap time and then you immediately lose 2 tenths.
Because you over-try. You think, I got 2 tenths, I can find another 2 tenths by braking even later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
a very, very powerful, immediate indication, though, isn't it, of where the car is or where your tyres are or where you are or drive different gear or you can see where you might gain or lose.
And you get a dopamine hit when you see a negative sign. Any racer that sees a negative sign is like, you get a tingle. It's like, oh, here I go. Yeah, I'm on for pole, or I'm going to beat my teammate.
So that was slippery slope for most people, but you've enjoyed your ride of motorsport competing, haven't you?
Yes, yeah,
so
absolutely.
What was the first thing? Was it?
First thing was Fun Cup. Yeah, well, I don't really want to talk about it, but I did a race in a historic Formula Ford when I was about 21. I didn't go well.
Put you off the ball.
Yeah, I qualified second to last, which is not great. And then I managed to take out the leader as he lapped me. So we both ended up in the barrier. And I had a written off Formula Ford and no money. So I had no money and no talent. And I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't for me.
But now, armed with your data.
Armed with the data, yeah. Because working blind on a track where you get, if you're lucky, you get a lap board that tells you what your previous lap time was.
Yeah.
They're so slow for you to understand what you did right or what you did wrong.
Yeah.
To when you get instant feedback and you can see, coming out of a corner, well, it's counting up. I'm losing time. Why is that? Well, I had to lift a little bit because I went in too deep or something.
Yeah.
And it just gives you that reinforcement learning.
And Fun Cup it's a very, very competitive.
It's ridiculous.
Championship.
Yes. It's very popular. The last race was last weekend. There was 30 cars in it, 70 plus drivers.
Yeah.
And you had people like Phil Keane, Johnny Molam.
It's where everyone goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
To keep themselves
sharp. Because you have to be sharp. If you can finish in the top 5 in a Fun Cup race, you're a damn good driver. Because you can be 4 or 5 tenths off the pace and you're 10th on the grid. So,
yeah.
And in their 4-hour-long races, so you get, if you do it with 2 drivers, that's 2 hours of seat time.
Have you done the 20? Is the 25?
I have. Yeah, I've done that. I think 3 or 4 times.
Have you?
Yeah, very difficult that is to do well in that, but it's a grueling event.
Yeah, must be. A lot of slipstreaming, I would imagine.
Yeah, and if it rains, I think a Fun Cup tank lasts like 2.5 hours. That's a lot of time at night in the rain.
As we went, Jethro got stuck in a car at the 24 hours of at Silverstone.
They wouldn't let him in, would they?
They wouldn't let him in.
I really,
I think
it just
got to stay out.
Round and round. So your eyes didn't fall
I
asleep.
was in that race. I thought,
Were you?
yes. Yeah, my headlights failed.
Oh,
Yeah. I was racing for Team Brit, and the guy that ran the team said, I found this fantastic, massive, big, bright spotlights on eBay. They're 50 quid. At which point, I was like, I winced. I was like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, amazing. They're so bright. This and that. Anyway, I was doing one of the night stints, and I was following a gaggle of cars with all bright lights, and I was right behind them, and I picked my way through them, and I got past the last one as I went into Cops, at which point I realised my lights had failed. Up to then, you had no idea, because all the cars around you, and it was a little bit foggy. And so I went round Cops, I don't know, 100 miles an hour, and I was heading towards Maggots Beckett's, and I couldn't see a thing.
They probably didn't even see you coming.
No. And I
Delphi.
And I knew it was a left before a right, so I gently braked and turned left. And of course, with nothing to gauge anything on, I just instantly went into a spin, and I managed to bury it like 100 meters into the gravel in Maggots Beckett's.
That's not a good.
No, it wasn't great, but that was properly terrifying, because it's like someone just put their hand over the front of your eyes, and it was foggy as well.
Yeah, I remember the fog. We were in a 370 zone.
Yes.
Which just went round. Did all right in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fog.
Yeah,
It just sits over the circuit, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So where did you go from Fun Cup? You probably got properly into racing in the Fun Cup.
Yes.
Competitiveness, got sharp.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
I won that championship four times back in the day. Yes.
So when was the first year you did it? What year?
2010, I think it was.
Gosh, that's some consistency then, isn't it? To win it 4
And then is that when you progressed into, you started in historics, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. Point? Yeah. I then fancied an E-Type, because I've always loved E-Types. Yeah. And I particularly like the low drag, not an original, of course, because I didn't have £7 million. But I got a low drag E-Type, and I competed with Nigel. Again, he taught me how to drive that. I competed with him in that.
Must have been quite different after that.
Oh, it was, I when I first drove it, I thought there was something wrong with it, because it just slid everywhere. It just wouldn't go in a straight line under braking, acceleration, turning, nothing. It was just constantly moving. I came in, there's something loose in this car, and Nigel got in it. Went like 10 seconds a lap quicker than me. Got out, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That sounds very familiar. So that was my first run in a TVI Tuscan.
Right.
Way back in the day. Do they all do that?
Yeah. Was it trying to kill you?
Just take attitude all the time.
Yeah.
But and great fun.
Yeah.
Once you got your head around it,
hilarious. It's just, joyous. It really is. Yeah, sliding an E-Type round, say, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is just the best.
Yeah. But when we visited you at your office, there's quite a lot of silverware up there.
Yeah.
No, most of it comes from the Fun Cup. I know that now. But there was
probably about 20%.
I'm joking. But there was one pot that you really cherish.
Yes.
And that came from what you did after the E-Type.
Yeah, so after the E-Type, when you go to a historic race meeting, it's like a 3 or a 4 day event, because you'll test on the Thursday. You test on the Thursday, you'll do some qualifying on the Friday, and you might race on the Saturday or you might race on the Sunday. So that could be 4 days and just one race. So I thought it's time to buy some cars to fill in the gaps. And I bought a Chevron B8, because I think they're just pretty. And they look fantastic. And it was my first sort of proper race car, rather than like an E-Type's a road car, really. It's always compromised. But the B8 was a proper little single-seater racing car, beautiful thing with a lovely engine. And I raced that again with that was with Callum Lockie. And we did the Masters FIA Historic Championship, and we won that. So we were flown out to St. Petersburg to the FIA do, and there was Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Loeb, all the winners of that year, and like a couple of guys in a 1968 Chevron B8, like sort of gate crashing the party.
But what a moment!
It was, it's absolutely fantastic, and it was a fun time, that racing that car.
Now back at the business, you were still doing GPS stuff, and you created something which made your business much more profitable again.
Yes. In developing all of this GPS-based stuff, we had to really improve the accuracy of our systems, because we were working a lot with the OEMs, or the Porsches, BMWs, Ford, Jaguar. Every car company in the world nowadays uses a V-Box. But they're pushing us all the time for more accuracy, for better results, more measurements using GPS. I mean, with GPS, you can even measure the bumps on a track, because the speed is so accurate from GPS. If you take the vertical speed and you integrate it to give you like a distance travelled, you can see the bumps on a track. And if you go down a straight, you can line up the traces by the bumps. Because it is that accurate.
Wow.
But in order to check that and get that accuracy, you need to simulate it on the bench. You can't just go and drive around Silverstone every day when you're trying to develop a product. It's just prohibitive. So we needed a simulator to test it out in the office. And there was about 1 or 2 companies in the world, and one of them was in England, a company called Spire, and they did this huge, complicated box that was £30,000, and this is sort of 20 years ago, so it was an awful lot of money back then. And I bought it. I took out a loan. I bought it. We used it. It elevated our products. It meant that we could calibrate our products, so we could give a certificate with them. And then we just needed more and more of these things, and I wasn't paying £30,000 every time. So I thought, there must be a easier, cheaper way of doing it, because this is using quite old technology. It's like a sledgehammer to cracker a nut, really. So I thought, well, why couldn't you go for a drive with an antenna and record all the signals coming from the satellites and then just replay them on the bench? And my technology director said, no, it can't be that easy. Other people would have done it. I went, no, not necessarily. So we rigged something up. And we did it, and it worked. And we both sat there with our jaws open going, this cost us £2,000 as opposed to £30,000. So we so we made a few of these. We used them in-house. They really helped us, elevated us. And then I was like, we could sell this.
Of course you could.
Yeah. So that's a 30 to 40% of our business.
Wow.
Is we sell these simulators. And we moved it on. It got a lot more sophisticated since then. We now actually also simulate all the satellite signals. I've got an absolute genius that works. He's in Poland. He's moved back to Poland, but he sits there literally in a darkened, quiet room, working to his own. Goodness knows what hours he works, but he understands all the maths behind all the satellites and how they work.
Yeah.
And we got this software that also simulates all the satellites.
So this is called LabSat?
It's called a LabSat, yeah. So it's a laboratory satellite.
Yeah.
Obvious.
So,
like V-Box, velocity box.
So you just do it in your...
Yeah.
As if you're outside.
Yeah.
And you can log in. You can simulate wherever you want to in the world.
Exactly, yeah. You can just push a button and you can be driving around the Tokyo bypass in a 1,000 horsepower R32 or something, which I did once. But they forgot to tell me I had 1,000 horsepower. That's a different story. Nearly killed myself. But we now sell those simulators to Google, Apple, SpaceX, Qualcomm, Broadcom, Bosch, any Samsung, anybody making anything with GPS in generally has one of these boxes. SpaceX are our biggest customer because they've 150 of these systems to test their satellites as they come off the production line and to develop them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's big business for them, isn't it?
It is.
They want to get it right first time.
Yes, so. Absolutely.
So, and you're constantly trying to improve your driving. You've done quite well in the Chevron.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get bumped out of Masters with the E-Type, or something upset you about the organisation of the Masters series, didn't it?
Yes, they were picking on me. My E-Type was going a lot quicker than they wanted it to go. I was beating Cobras.
Why would everybody assume that you got traction control?
Yes, they did. They thought I was cheating with traction control. The only reason he's quick in the wet is because he's got traction control. So that's why I published a lot of my videos showing how sideways and how much I spun, proving that I couldn't have had traction control. Yeah. If I did, it was rubbish anyway. So I won the Jaguar Classic Challenge 1 year in it, but Masters didn't want an E-Type beating the Cobras because back in the day they didn't. The Cobras were much quicker, and I was beginning to do that. So they put a rev limiter on my car, on E-types. There was 3 E-types. 2 of them were at the back of the grid, and I was at the front. So really to slow me.
It's how they did that with a lot of categories, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they did it with Cortinas and a few other things as well, didn't they? To try and stop people spending loads of money on engines and calm everything down. Which I guess is you can see the sense in it. Yes. But if you're playing fair and you just happen to be quick in a quick car, then that's
exactly because they're analysing the data and working out.
I mean, we only revved to 7,000. They were convinced I was revving to 8,000, and that's why I was doing really well. So they put I'll give him 6,300. So it dropped 700 RPM, but it meant that was about a second and a half. So suddenly we were nowhere. So I looked at all the different cars that competed in those championships. I said, what's the fastest one? And I'll show them. So I went to Andy Wolf Manufacturing, he's like top of the tree. Absolute brilliant engineer and driver, very much like Andy Rouse in that respect. He'll quite like me saying that, I think.
Shout out Andy.
He'd probably say he's a bit quicker than Andy Rouse.
He could be, yes. And I went to him and I said, right, I want to build a Daytona Cobra, because I'd seen Simon Hadfield and Leo Voisidis.
Yeah.
They were cleaning up.
Yeah.
So I said to him, can you build one of these? Well, I've got one half in build that someone's just pulled out. So he said, your chance to put your stamp on it. So I said, right, let's, you've got all the time in the world. Let's go through it like with a fine tooth comb.
Traction control.
ABS.
On ABS.
Yes. Yeah. Don't worry about that. I'll sort outside it.
Yeah, lots of sensors. So they built this Daytona Cobra and had it in nice Racelogic V-Box colours. And raced it with, I started off racing with Callum, now I race it on my own. But this thing's an absolute weapon. And it's done quite well.
But yet you tell the story about despondent fellow competitors with the Griff in park next door.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone...
Because the thing that struck me with you is you believe it's all on the brakes. The speed is mostly on the brakes.
Most of it is, yes, yeah.
That was Eugene and...
that was Eugene and Mike Whittaker, yes.
With, Griff.
That's right. A lot of people say there's an arms race, producing, all the engines producing ridiculous power and they got trick suspension parts. But having studied data for a long time doesn't make an awful lot of difference. You've got to have a lot more power before you can really see a lap time. And you've got to be able to drive it to get that power out. And sometimes, you might get power at the top end, but you've lost all the grunt coming out the corner. So you actually, you can add another 50 horsepower and go slower. But a lot of people were sort of pointing fingers at my car going, it's an arms race and they've spent loads of money. I didn't. I just said, just build it properly once. Yeah. We never developed it. We've never touched it since. But a friend of mine, Mike Whittaker, was in the garage in Exby in a TBR Griffith, racing with Eugene O'Brien, who's a fantastic pedaler. Done quite a few things with Eugene over the years, like a brake light delay switch for his touring.
Love that.
So I love Eugene. He's so competitive and so sneaky. He's great. And it was after qualifying, and I think I was 2 seconds a lap quicker than them. And I went round to see him. They're both sat there looking depressed, looking at the car, going, we just don't know how you've done that. And I went, you got a V-Box? Yeah. I'll give you my data. They went, what? So I'll give my data. Really? So Eugene looked at it and said, we're quickly on the straights. We got the same corner apex speed. It's all under braking. It's 2 seconds a lap. It's just under braking. Yeah. And the problem is they couldn't run any cooling on their brakes. It was disallowed. So I mentioned this to the organisers and I said, look, it's not an arms race. Give them their cooling back on their brakes. And now TBRs are beating Daytonas.
Yeah.
Just about. It's 50-50 now. It's great. It's how it should be.
Yeah, it's kind of how you want it, isn't it?
Exactly. And they, it doesn't cost anything to put some plastic tubing on the car to cool the brakes down.
No. Which is good. Very, very good of you.
So your racing's brought you full circle, hasn't it? Because you've got a Kaliber.
Yes.
RS500 Cosworth.
That's right. Yes. I used to watch that back in its day. It used to be my favourite car to watch, these fire-breathing.
Andy Rouse's.
Andy Rouse's as well. He was, one of my heroes. And it came up for sale one year. I was lucky enough to be able to buy it. sold a few things and lied to my wife how much it costs on the normal.
It's only a Sierra.
Yes. But yeah, bought it, and then I've been racing it.
They look like fantastic things to race, but again, they look too fast for their own good almost. So clearly, you need to manage.
Yes.
When you deploy the performance and when you don't. I imagine.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous thing to drive because it's a Sierra 1.6L with a 550 horsepower. So it's really crude suspension. But it's we really got it handling really well this year. I've been working with Andy Wolf on the handling of it recently, and we found some massive improvements. But it's hilarious. You don't approach it casually.
It's not the sort of chuck it in and sort it in.
No, the night before, I'm sort of tossing and turning in my sleep, and my heart rate's up a bit, and you turn up, and I can do this, because it's all down to you.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do anything for you. It's got way too much power, and the brakes are a bit rubbish.
Because you're up against some quite interesting stuff, aren't you? There's a few R32
Skylines, yes, the BMW M3s. So there's some real eclectic machines, fast machines out there. And the Sierra produces its lap time in very different ways to the other Skylines. But it's about bravery. It really is. It's about how early you can get on the throttle, how much speed you can carry around cops and places like that.
Is it fairly blunt as well, the performance delivery?
It's not anymore. I think back in this day with the old Zytec engine management system that was very, very slow updating, and it only had a few inputs into it. Nowadays, you measure a lot more things and you can control the boost a lot more accurately. It's a little bit calmer, but then it's all relative. It's still, the tyres are about that wide. And
they're
550 horsepower,
aren't they?
Yeah, 1,100 kilos, and it comes in with a hell of a belt at about 5,000 RPM.
Yeah.
But it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. And the business is still doing extraordinary things with GPS. You showed us round, and
yes.
Tell us about the tunnel GPS system for
this is
Australia.
This is based on our satellite simulation business the LabSat that we made, and we were asked if it could be used to replace GPS in a tunnel. They're building a 6-kilometre tunnel in Sydney in Australia, and modern cars have an eCall system where if you have a crash, knows where it is, contacts the authorities, pinpoints where that accident is. Of course, in a tunnel, it doesn't know where it is. So they wanted to put a system in so any car would know where it was if it had an accident. So we've adapted the LabSat to work in a tunnel. So we have literally just 80 LabSats in a big line down the tunnel. That
creates that sort of...
that creates exactly. Yeah, it's quite crude. They're just single positions. But the car sat nav smooths that out because it's got wheel speed sensors and things, so it appears as a continuous position. Yeah. But that's one use of it.
And then the other thing you're doing is, if anybody's watched outside broadcasts,
sports broadcasting,
and the one you showed, I'd seen that on the telly, where you have a huge scoreboard.
Yes,
just
hanging in midair. Yeah, augmented reality.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And then you can fly around it.
You can fly around it in a helicopter. Yeah. Recently, you've seen it on Formula One.
Yeah,
they have pictures of the two drivers with their lap time sometimes, and the camera will pan around that. We do identical. We did a lot better than them. They're very restricted. They can't zoom. The lighting conditions change. They can't do anything.
Yours competing systems.
Ours can work in any lighting conditions. And you can zoom to your heart's content on the camera. But so we did it first for the Super Bowl. That was I wanted to do a quiet introduction to the technology, but unfortunately, the first people that came to us were Fox, and they said, "Yeah, this is exactly what we want for the Super Bowl." So that was extremely stressful for breaking brand new technology, but it worked perfectly.
Was it the camera was on the blimp?
It was on a Sky. It's called the Skycam, and it's a cable. There's two cables at 90 degrees, and you can fly this camera up and down around the whole stadium.
Wow!
And there's no good way of measuring the position of this because the cables stretch and about, so you can't use sensors. So using our system, using GPS, or we've done a replacement for GPS which works indoors. That's a whole big story about that technology that probably won't interest your readers. But and we're doing it now. We did the ocean race the other week, where there's a helicopter with £500,000 worth of camera and gimbal hanging off the side, and we've got a system GPS on that camera and gimbal. So the camera knows exactly where it is in 3D space, where it's pointing.
Relative to anything else you want to drop in.
So like a start line on a boat race is 2 buoys, but when you're 300 metres away in a helicopter, you can't see those buoys. So
the perspective is very different, isn't it?
So we superimpose the start line and some graphics and scores and things on that in real time. And that's using GPS. Yeah.
So what's the next? I know technology is always evolving, isn't it? And everyone's talking about AI in any context. Yeah. But can you see the next trend or the next thing that's going to unlock another idea in your?
Not sure. They normally just sort of come to you in a quick flash one day.
You've got your Apex finder, haven't you?
Oh yes, yeah. That's something I worked on this weekend in the Fun Cup. I realised from watching myself vainly on YouTube at the Silverstone Festival when I was in my Daytona racing against Olivier Hart, which was a fantastic battle, that I wasn't hitting the apexes like I thought I was hitting it. In the car, I'm fantastic. I'm super accurate. But when you watch on the outside, especially on the really fast stuff, I was just missing them by sort of 50, 60 centimetres. And you watch someone like Nigel Greensill or Callum Locking, they're on it. Doesn't matter if it's a 150 mile an hour corner or a 50 mile an hour corner, they've hit that apex. Yeah. That's why they're pros. So I've made something using GPS that measures instantaneously in the car how close you've got to your apex, and then lights up like a scorecard for you. Oh, that was a 6 out of 10, or that was a 9 out of 10. Well, that's an 11. You've just taken the wing off. As happened. Well, it didn't take the wing off, but it left a really big black mark on the wing at the weekend when I went over that apex and hit the tyre stack a little bit.
And that's all. Go back, analyse the data, find the time.
Yeah, but it's real time in the car. So you turn into the corner and you hit the apex and bang, you got your lights. Tells you whether you were. Each light's 5 centimetres. So if you've left 5 unlit after coming out the corner, that's 25 centimetres. And that's 300ths of a second in a Fun Cup is a long time.
Yeah.
But it's
all worth having.
It is worth having.
All worth having.
So you could put an exit as well,
you
presumably.
Could.
So you've used all the track.
Yeah.
Up to track limits.
In theory, it could be used for track limits, but I don't want to be the priest. I don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you remember when we started Evo, we were going to give out things, and there was a thing called the Apex Hunter? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Which is basically, it's just going to be
like the fluoro cat's eye thing, wasn't it?
Okay.
You could nail into the apex of your favourite corner.
It had an Evo logo on it, didn't it? So you were a road. Yeah, so but then there were certain liability issues.
Where would they? Yeah, so offer use only.
Kyboshed that, didn't it?
Backed away from that.
Right.
But you can get away with all that stuff in your car these days.
Apex Hunter. Well, that's quite a good name, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, a small amount.
Okay, a little licensing fee. You'll let me use that, because I haven't come up with a name yet.
There you go.
Yeah, because there's already a product called an Apex Pro that's got nothing to do with apexes, but it's to do with racing, so I can't use that.
So yeah, what else is in the race car garage? I know there's one other car that you're going after GT3 racing now, haven't you?
Yes. I've got I must admit, I've never been a fan of Audis in my life for various different reasons, but the Audi R8's I've always had a soft spot for.
Yeah.
And they're now historic cars. Some of them they're classed as historic cars, which is crazy. Because there's 2011, I think my car is. But I've just got into GT3 racing because they're having races for these older cars. And the first, I've done some racing in GT3 cars back in the past. Didn't get on very well. I exited one in flames at Daytona once.
Not?
Yeah, Porsche.
Exciting.
Super Cup car. I rented another one and did all right in the race, but it was touch go. I could just got on a plane and went home. So I didn't really get on with them. But then I drove a friend's Audi R8 at a recent winter test. He said, could you do some laps in it for me? I was like, yeah, okay. Got out of it and went, wow, that's fun. Because they move around.
Yeah.
The Audis are really fun to drive. They're really nice balance. And it does reward like a brave driver because they're a little bit tape.
Yeah.
They're a little bit pointy.
Yeah.
They've got a bit of a reputation.
Yeah.
But I like that.
Yeah, I raced one at Nürburgring 24 hours, but in 2011. And I thought I'm never going to be able to race this for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Clenching my teeth. And
They are nowadays.
absolutely.
They are knife-edge cars.
Yeah, they are. And it was set up, the guy said, we've set it up just like the leading cars.
Ooh,
Good.
Oh, thanks.
there's a little operating window you have to keep it in.
Yeah.
I found out I spun it, I think, 3 times on my first test.
Would get it out of the way there.
Yes, exactly.
Do it
Yeah.
at the Nürburgring.
I broke the gearbox, but, but apart from that. Because I went backwards. I was left for braking, started to go backwards, and my natural instinct was to punch the clutch, but my foot was on the brake, so I punched the brake instead of the clutch. And then I took my foot off, and the gearbox went backwards. It was like, oh no, really, really clumsy, horrible. So yeah,
Ouch.
only did that once.
Yeah.
So there's a few things in your road going toy box as well. But tell us about the Aston, because that is such a great story.
So yeah, my dad was into his cars, and as his company grew and did better, he decided to buy himself his dream car. And it was a Aston Martin DB6, 1967. And I used to work on it with him. We used to spend the weekends doing it up, restoring it, fiddling with the engine, taking bits off, and then we'd go to a hill climb, and sometimes he'd compete in the hill climb himself, and I'd watch him. So it was a real sort of formative experience of mine, and I loved this car. But unfortunately, my father got motor neurone disease and passed away, and my mum had to sell the car because I was, I think, 17 at the time, and there's no way I could afford to run or keep this car, so she sold it. And then I've been running these cars in historic racing, and a friend of mine said, "You need to invest some of your money in shares, and I can help you," because he was a financial advisor. I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's boring. I'm going to buy a classic car, I reckon, that will go up in price. And he said, "Oh, what would you get?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to get an Aston DB6 like my dad used to have." He said, "What do they look like?" And I said, I'll Google it. I Googled Aston DB6, and I showed him. "Oh, yeah, they're nice. What colours was your dad?" I said, "It's a very unusual colour. It was called mink, but it's like champagne-y colour." Tell you what, I'll Google the number plate. So I Googled the number plate, MJW707E. I said, "But just, you never know." And I'd never done this before. And I went, enter, and it came up, Bonham's auction, for sale, MJW707E, Saturday. And this was Thursday. And this was Bonham's auction in Newport Pagnell, just down the road.
Meant to be.
And I turned to look at him and I went, "I'm not investing any with you, I'm sorry." And so I took my cousin along who knew the car back in the day. And he just kept jabbing his elbow into my ribs, going higher, higher, higher. I ended up paying more than anyone paid for a DB6 before, and has done since, I think. But there you go. And yeah, I got it. And it was actually the guy my mum sold it to 25 years ago. And all he'd done, he'd done 300 or 400 miles a year, put it in the garage, just done all the little tarty bits on the outside, nothing major. No,
so it's as close as it could possibly be to how it was when...
Because I was really worried that I'd turn out to be fully restored.
Yeah.
It would be a wreck, in which case it wasn't. But it was time warp, as though...
That's amazing.
I was
Wow, that must have made their hairs go up on
Yeah, it did.
neck.
Like, there was a little hole in the dashboard where when you put the keys in, the keys used to swing.
Yeah, they
from
swing
side to
around.
side. My dad put a little clip there that you could put the key fob in to stop it swinging.
Obviously.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Just drill a dash of an Aston Martin. Yeah. But yeah, that hole was still there. And there's a special cut-off switch that I knew about. So when I went to pick the car up, the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, it's a bit difficult to start this car. What, I said, "Oh, no, yeah, no switches here. Click, click, there we go." He's like, his jaw opened. Yes, my dad's old car.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've had that ever since.
Yeah, that's great.
Very special.
Have you had to do much? Are you sort of looking after it without?
Yes, it's
without.
Again, the same kind of thing.
storing it,
I drive
really.
it 300 or 400 miles a year. And I just do all the nice, just keep it tidy. But it's the same bodywork, same interior, everything's.
Yeah, they're only like that once, aren't they?
They are, yes.
And the original ones.
Yes.
Very good, Julian. Thank you very much for coming to chat with us.
No problem at all.
I feel massively underachieving in my life now. That's amazing to go from like an 8-year-old computer geek to...
Yes. and the geeks shall inherit the earth.
Yeah, it's still based in Buckingham, still in the area.
Yeah, still got grown-ups running the company for me. Yeah, so I play with technology.
Well, can't wait to see
soldering iron and an oscilloscope and resistors and diodes in my office still.
Can't wait to see what you come up with next. It'll be fascinating. Thank you.
Great.
No problem. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.